Well, welcome to each and every one of you. As always, it's lovely to be here with you. A couple of quick announcements. Um, a retreat is in the works, online retreat, the first weekend in March. That's tentative, so just keep checking in. I just have to um, put some stuff in. Just have to, nail it down. So just uh, don't hold your breath, but it's probably going to happen then. Let's see here. I have a new kundalini group that's starting Friday, January 22nd, I believe. Again, details are on the website for that. Um, so I look forward to having you there. Big thank you to everyone offering generous donations. Those, of course, are very helpful in continuing to support this broadcast. If you have not joined us for the Wednesday evening meditations, I encourage you. I know some people are intimidated by an hour meditation, but uh, just come. If your heart wants to be there, don't be scared. Just join us. It's a beautiful thing, and lots of powerful energies are waking up, and people are reporting to me they're having very powerful experiences. So if you want to join us, there's details on the website about that. I think I did my part with the announcements, and so I feel like there's one more there. Oh yeah, I will say this. I said this a number of times. My assistant, who's helped me publish a book, is asking that more of you help to write some reviews on Amazon, just so it's more discoverable to other people. And that goes for all the social media stuff. Um, I've never been a proselytizer. It's just not in my nature. I'd rather be anonymous than to be seen. But, if you find something here that you like, share it. Share it. This week at our, I guess it's the Capitol building, there was a riot, a protest, all kinds of shenanigans. Lots of people got together. And, they had a mutual intention and they shared a lot on social media. And so we can, be involved in this kind of stuff, or we can share, something different. We can share movements of love and peace. And, Danny, who also helps out with the group, I was just going on my Facebook page and I was reading this quote. Uh, I was reading it and I was like, oh boy, that's a really nice quote. And then at the bottom of it, it said my name on it. I said, oh, wow, I didn't realize I said that. But, when we share something inspiring, it touches us, it uplifts us. It can get our mind out of the gutter. And so, more and more, the further you walk and mature on this path, God will ask that you share more of your heart with the world. Now, it's very important that you share your heart with yourself first. And by that, I mean you love yourself deeply, you support yourself deeply, you've done your healing work. And the more healed you are, the more open you are, the more transformed you become. And then we become a fit conduit to share in the love here on planet Earth. And so I thought I might just jump right into the questions, but before I do, just a quick reminder to everyone. This satsang is about you being present with you. You being present with the love and the freedom, the spaciousness, of your own being, of your own nature. That's what this is all about, you know. I can respond, you know, to all sorts of questions, but I encourage you, you know, while we're joined here together, to be connected to your direct experience. What is your direct experience in each and every moment? That's what this is really all about. And all these questions, in a sense, is just a reminder to reconnect with that which is true. And being human, it's confusing. It's messy. I was driving down the mountain today. I received um, a wild phone call, is all I could say, from a good friend. And she, you know, told me, Craig, it hasn't been reported yet on the news. I don't even want to say this out loud, but I'm just going to, because it just shows how wild it was. It hasn't been reported yet on the news. Trump is in a bunker in Texas. He has declared martial law. They found a group of Italians who are in cahoots that gave the election to President Biden. Go fill up your gas tank now, because we have to stay inside for the next 10 days. Do not update your iPhone, because you'll miss the message from the president. I'm going, my Lord, what is going on here in your consciousness? And good friend of mine, very sane, you know, psychologically healthy individual. And, you know, I just said, I think maybe you've been a little bit hoodwinked, you know, just like, I think you got a little lost in internet land. And so when we get lost in internet land, we're stepping out of our direct experience. We're going into some fantasy world of this or that. We're getting lost in that which is crazy. And the human mind, the human psyche, the human collective consciousness, there's something within it that's so attracted to going into these states of fantasy. And it could simply be that as children, you know, we imagine all kinds of things, and it's fun to imagine. It's fun to be creative. And, you know, I was just talking with my little girl, and she had a Harry Potter wand, and she was doing spells for me. And, you know, she did this spell, and, you know, she said, you know, basically like, Daddy, read what it says in the book. And I opened the book, read what it said. She repeated it, moved her wand around, and then the page in the book moved. And she said, look, Daddy, it worked. You know, it worked. And, you know, that's fun. That's just fun imagination of her just playing around. And that's good and healthy. But as adults, some of us, we never develop proper discernment. And so we can get lost in magical thinking. And it's not like this is just something that happens individually. As you see on the news, it happens collectively. Just, we can get lost in whole realities, you know, of just, you know, whatever. This last couple of years has been just nasty political realities, you know, and these things get spun, and they get spun more, and it can be really quite confusing. Now, someone brought tonight a really fun question, which actually touches in this and on how this plays out often in spiritual circles. Excuse me. Hi, Craig. Many teachers and traditions have shared apocalyptic visions for the planet, visions of catastrophe, visions of the end times. I personally like calling it the end days. But some have also shared visions of renewal that follows, the resurrection, the new creation that rises from the ashes of the old. I am curious, Craig. Do you have visions of a kingdom to come? Do you have any intuitions of a new earth? Do you, Craig, hold a vision, big picture of where we are going? And if so, what is the shape of that new land? Or are you trying just to get through each day with all that is being thrown at you? In other words, is your energy spent bailing water out of a sinking ship to stay afloat? Or are you metaphorically keeping your eye on a glorious landfall just over the horizon? Um, yeah, and so I love how the question's phrased. And whenever a question is phrased in the either or context, are you this or are you that? Immediately I see a red flag, because this is just the dualistic nature of mind. Is it this way or is it that way? I like to imagine the third way. And God often speaks to us through the third way, not this way, not that way, but the third way. I'll say this in all transparency. I've been an absolute victim to conspiracy theories when I was younger. And by conspiracy theories, I meant whether it's the coming of the end times, with the Y2K. I bought a lot of food, in buckets, basically bought a lot of rice, which, I eat because I live on rice and veggies. Um, and then I did it again. There was something that Amma said in, before the 2005 tsunami, and she said there's this great catastrophe was coming. So then I fell prey to it again. It's the end of times coming. A meteorite's going to hit the earth. And so yeah, I stocked up with food and got a fishing pole, even though I'm a vegan. Just like just how silly it was. And then, of course, there was 2012, right? That was the end of the world, huh? And so we're all still here, and I can remember, stocking up again. And then around 2017, again, I heard Amma talk about this great disaster coming in 2020. And by this stage in the journey, I just thought, I'll buy some extra food because, I have a family and we live in Colorado. We get snowed in a lot. There's nothing wrong with having some extra food around the house. It's a good thing. I think it's just a wise thing. But do I have a thought or belief that the world is going to end? We're going to face the end times? No, absolutely not. Life doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop. I just, in a real grounded scientific perspective, hold just that the world is evolving, and I hold just a really practical perspective that, evolution never ends, like life never ends. The movement of life doesn't end. I saw this wonderful show, and it showed the city of Chernobyl, which is an atomic, say, wasteland after the nuclear reactor core melted or whatever happened over there in Russia. It's a great disaster when I was a young kid. And the city is, it has all these concrete buildings, all the windows are knocked out and everything. It just looks like just disaster land. It looked like disaster land. But now, in that city, there's trees and plants growing everywhere, like growing out of the cracks of the concrete, on tops of buildings. Like the forest is retaking that city. Wolves have come in, deer have come in, fox have come in, birds of all sort. Plants and animals have retaken what was once destroyed by man. And and boy, when I saw that, I literally started crying. I was so touched because here man was just screwing it all up, with this disaster, nuclear reactor disaster. And then I just saw the power of life. There was a drone just flew over the city, just showing how beautiful it was. How beautiful that the city that was once a nuclear, wasteland was just full of trees, full of green. And, they showed just, like wolves walking down the street, deer walking down the street, eagles giving birth, reclaiming, a concrete jungle. And so what I've seen just through my eyes, especially living in Colorado, you see the rock layers, is a really slow, like a slow, steady evolution with an occasional meteorite that comes and smashes into the earth. Out here in the Four Quarters, you see all these different rock layers and these, ages and dinosaur footprints. And an old friend of mine, he was digging in his yard and dug up this giant dinosaur bone. And I've been to meteor impact sites and seen those. And, so I'm just in awe of life itself. Uh, do I have a vision of a glorious new world order or new kingdom? Um, no, not so much. Not so much. Do I think evolution has sped up and more people are awake now than have ever been? Oh, absolutely. That seems really clear. When I was young, starting the path, very few people were waking up. If we were talking about people who were awake, we were looking towards, great Indian gurus. Very few Westerners were saying, I'm awake, I'm enlightened, I had this huge experience, something powerful is happening in my consciousness. And so over the last 20 years, have people been waking up at a very quick rate? Yes, yes, and that's beautiful. But also, over the last 20 years, man has done great destruction. I mean, we've had massive forest fires and, tsunamis and just destruction and this whole, plastic wasteland, in the South Pacific. And so both things are happening. Evolution is speeding up. People are waking up at a fast pace. And at the same time, it looks like we could be on the brink of another mass extinction. If we don't get our act together, with honoring the planet. And so, and something else I can say is, I was going on a walk today and I've received some more tragic news within my family system over the last couple weeks. And so I was just thinking about that and just, how to create more healing within my family and supporting those who are struggling and hard times coming our way. And then also just awestruck by the absolute beauty of this present moment. The absolute beauty. And just hearing the voice of Christ, the kingdom of heaven is here, here, now, all about the earth. It's here, now, all about the earth. Yet no man seeth. Because we're lost in our head, or we're lost in our conspiracy theories, or we're busy waiting for the coming of the new age, or the end of times, or whatever. you know, and so that there's this paradox that the new age is here. The kingdom is here if you open your heart and look out at life through the eyes of your heart. You see, the kingdom is here. You turn on the news, especially like say this summer with all those forest fires, and it looks like the end days, end times. I think 2 years ago, I had a massive forest fire across uh, the street from my home. This big, beautiful mountain. There was a Hiroshima style cloud, just giant mushroom cloud pouring out of the side of the mountain. And you look at that and you think, oh my God, it's the end of times. But, if you step back and have a historical context, an evolutionary context, a reality context with global warming and just the impact that man has on this planet, if you have a connection with God, then we start to see the whole picture more clearly. And it doesn't look like we're going to an ultimate end this month and we need to retake the capital back. It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like we're on the edge of, this massive, new change and Christ will float down from heaven. For me, the coming again of Christ is the awakening of Christ in your heart, in you, as you. And as you open to this direct experience of the Christ, you begin to see that the world is absolutely beautiful, absolutely holy, absolutely divine. And simultaneously, like they say in Zen, the house is on fire. And so it's this great paradox of, yeah, the world is evolving at an enormous rate. And with global warming, it seems like it's a sinking ship. And the way I look at it is, humanity has a choice. Has a choice to wake up and grow up. By grow up, I mean honor the earth, honor this world, honor what we're doing to each other. To wake up and grow up and heal and build a new world. And that's going to take time. Or just keep fighting over nonsense, over just putting all of our energy and attention into political elections and that kind of nonsense, thinking those guys are going to save us. And just be distracted. Be distracted. Fighting, blaming, judging, being righteous. That won't change the world. And so there's that. And now I'm going to say something radically different going into this new age. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. So in my direct experience, in the path and in the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and say Ramalinga Swamigal, I can feel something great coming. I can feel a transformation happening in my cells, in my consciousness, in the very matter of my being. I feel it. I experience it directly. And it gives me hope that God is in charge, that God has a plan, that we are moving ultimately toward evolving out of having an animal body and into a human body, and out of the human body and into a divine body, out of an animal nature into human nature, and then beyond that into divine nature. Evolving out of an animal mind, eventually into a divine mind. I feel it, I experience it directly, this evolution. Does God have great plans for us? Yes. Yes. Does God have great plans for us in this lifetime that we're going to fully transform into our light body and the world is going to be saved? That's up to God. That's up to God. The thing that I try to do is to be in alignment with God's vision, with God's work, while at the same time keeping my feet on planet Earth. My feet on planet Earth, not lost in a fantasy, but my feet right here. And in response to this question, sometimes right here means we're bailing water. Sometimes it means we're seeing love in the eyes of another. Sometimes it means we just hold ourselves and meet ourselves with love while it looks like our world is on fire. So anyways, I hope that was helpful. That was a really fun question for me. I used to get real fired up about the end times, and I've made the mistake so many times or just gotten carried away by it in my underground bunker with all my guns and ammunition. Just kidding. But I've just gotten carried away with it that at some point I kind of gave up. I did read an anthropology study or anthropology paper that that came out around the time of 2012, and basically the author said, look, this idea that the end times and the coming of the new age, it's been within the collective psyche since the time of Christ. It's in our psyche, and so we tend to get tricked by it. We tend to get tricked by that one. So anyways, I hope there was something in there helpful. All right. What other questions do we have? Here's a question from Daniel. He writes, hi, Craig. Many times you have said we have to unhook from desire. You write spiritual freedom is the giving up of all of our egoic wants, desires, and agendas. I can agree with you to a certain extent, but it's still difficult for me to generalize the concept of desire. As you say, we are still fully human. From my point of view, desire is a part of life. Is not part of human nature to desire, to see, to hear, to experience? The desire to find a right place in the world and society and our community, the desire to become a father or mother or interact with other human beings, the desire to learn about a subject. Shouldn't a man follow his taste and his inclination, even though there are desires involved? Yeah, this is a great question. So I've always hesitated with the word desire because it tends to lead into monastic thinking, and monastic thinking in that that desire is bad, that desire is wrong. Whether it's desire, for greater love and intimacy, or a new car or a home. One of the ways I look at desire is, I look at it two ways. So one is, if you ask your heart, what is your true desire? And you follow that, basically you are following God's intelligence. You're following God's desire. So when you follow your heart's desire, not necessarily an emotional desire, like for more ice cream, but when you follow your heart's desire, say to truly have a family, if it's a true desire, God put that desire within you. And in that sense, it's a non-dual desire. because your heart and God's voice, your heart and God's heart is one heart. Your desire and God's desire is one desire. And so, we really want to have discernment, like with the previous question of, well, what are my true desires? What are my true desires? If we desire to have, a Ferrari and a big mansion and a, 20-year-old girlfriend with a perfect body, that's probably coming from your ego. It's probably coming from your ego. But if you desire to have a home to rest your head, a place that's warm, you want to practice there and just be able to cook and have a nice family, now we're more in alignment with the truth. With the truth. And so I encourage you to feel into whatever desires are coming into your consciousness and just to have discernment around it. So when I wrote this about giving up our egoic wants and desires and agendas, the key word there was egoic. Egoic. The desire that's me against you, me against the world. I need this one thing to make me happy. For me, I've desired to be in love and to share life with another. To share life with another. Now, the ego may have an image of this one person. It must be with this one person. It must work out. That's an ego desire. But the heart desire, it's more general. It's to experience love, say in a long-term committed relationship. To experience love with my children. It's a healthy desire. And it creates unity. It creates love in the world. And so we just want to have discernment around this. But what is the truth here? He goes on to write, because I responded back, I said a little bit of this, and he said, well, Craig, a house is a necessity, but it can become frivolous if it's too big, too luxurious, etc. It's difficult to mark the line that divides superficial things from others. And so this isn't something you figure out with your mind. You figure it out with your heart. Your heart will tell you. Like the house that I'm living in now, I had a vision of it before I lived in this house. And when I first came to look at it, with the landlord, I thought, geez, I don't know about this house. But there was something within me that just said, like, this is it. And then the landlord ended up, I lived here a couple of years under, paying rent. And then, I just kept hearing this voice that this house will be yours, Craig. I thought, well, the landlord owns it. She's renting it to me, so I'm just paying rent. But then she went through a divorce and wanted to get rid of the house real quick, and I just happened to be living in it, and the price was right. It worked itself out. And so the more you listen to your heart, you'll find your heart is always speaking to you, telling you what is true. What's true. And what you'll find more is that the word desire will soften. And instead, you'll more feel as if it's the will of God. The will of God. The will of God for you to have this thing, if it's a true desire. If it's not true, there'll probably be a big fight with it. Struggle against it. Not always, but sometimes we chase after things we don't really want or we don't really need. and God will make it hard, so things don't really fall into place. That's life speaking to us. That's life speaking to us. That's not to say that, you can't grow through fighting for something. I've grown greatly through fighting for something. But I think you know what I mean. When it's superficial, you can feel it. And so this is really a discernment thing. You come into the heart, and can you discern what the truth is? Can you discern? Is this a true desire? Now, people get so carried away in the realm of attraction and love. I myself have, fallen, been confused, greatly around attraction and love. And, so it's important. It's very important to have discernment here, to really listen to the voice of the heart, to follow the heart. And the heart will come almost like a gentle wave. Just, it's very, very quiet, very clear. Where ego desires, like, I want that, I need that, I have to have it now. The heart will more say something like, just go there. Just go there. Go look at that. Or to light up. The emotional nature, it lights up and it gets like really excited and almost like frenetic, and then obsessing about it. Where the heart is more just like a trusting truth. An example, the home, like, this will be your home. You're going to live here. You're going to live here. Whereas, your heart can get excited or it can get fearful and this and that. And so we really want to be able to discern. This is a great skill on the path, is be able to discern what the truth is. The second way I want to speak about desire is desire, from one perspective, if you look at it from like an evolutionary, enlightened perspective, desire is simply a movement of evolution. That's all it is. It's a movement of evolution. I desire to grow into something greater. I desire to have an ever-expanding consciousness. I desire to experience more and more love in my life. And again, even at an egoic level, it's a movement of evolution. A number of years ago, not too long ago, I was driving like a 92 Toyota Tercel wagon, and it had all these dents in it. And my teenage daughter would laugh and be driving this car. She said, Dad, kids at the high school drive a nicer car than you. And so I gave myself permission to desire to have a nicer car with a newer motor and all the doors opened, and so it was a movement of evolution. And I got that. It wasn't just purely an egoic thing. It was evolving out of something that wasn't working, especially in snowy Colorado, into, developing the means and the resources and increasing my income so I could actually have a car that was safe to drive myself and my family around in. And so, again, desire is not bad. When we desire, say, new shiny things, it's just simply the nature of life, is to grow, to evolve, to expand. Like, technology is simply a movement of desire. It's not inherently bad. But again, without discernment, some desires can get us in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. So, anyways, let me just check in here and see here. Okay. This is from Constance. Hi, Craig. More I open, the more I experience the suffering of others. This suffering seems infinite, and it breaks me again and again. I just don't see how to function in my life and keep opening. Is there a sweet spot between opening and protecting oneself, or this same breaking is this same breaking important in some way? Um, Constance, let me say it this way. The further you walk on the path, the more you will grow in love and strength. And so if you're opening through the path of love and feeling more and being overwhelmed by your feelings, it's simply a reflection that you also need to be connecting with your strength, with your power. And this isn't spoken so much about on the spiritual path. But if you don't connect with your strength and your power, you'll have the experience that you're having right now, being like, oh, I'm opening and it feels like there's infinite pain in the world. And I don't even know if I want to be open anymore because it hurts so much. And so I want you to grow in your goddess nature. And where I live in the Southwest, we have all this imagery here, indigenous imagery of these goddess figures. And what I want you to imagine is, the figures, they don't look like a Barbie doll, the goddess, the ones that I see around here. They look more like a pyramid. They have a head and then a bigger torso and then a bigger bottom that melts into the earth. And the reason I point that out is because in order to be a goddess, we have to have this foundation of strength. And so it's a connection, a melting, a merging into your Buddha nature, into the strength of the earth itself. In Zen, they call this the mountain of emptiness, where you're opening to a sense of power that's infinite, strength that's infinite. And so more and more as we connect to this on the path, then when things come our way, we don't so much feel as if we're being overwhelmed, or it doesn't feel like the pain is infinite. What it feels more like is that our presence is infinite, that this love is infinite, that there's so much room here, that there's plenty of room for pain and confusion and rioting in the streets. There's room for it. There's room for it. There's room for disaster, like the things that I was speaking about have come my way the last couple of weeks. There's room for it. I don't like it, all this difficulty that's arising in my family. But I'm going to meet it with love to the best of my ability. And there's just this quiet strength that this too shall pass. This too shall pass. There's enough love here for this too. And so, paradoxically, one of the ways we get in touch with our strength is through loving the part of your nature that feels insecure. So the way we develop strength is through loving the aspect of our nature that feels insecure, just loving it to death, loving it again and again and again. And the mantra that I like is, if I feel overwhelmed, not so much anymore, but in the past, I felt overwhelmed, place a hand on my heart, a hand on my belly, and I'd breathe into that little kid within me that was feeling scared, that was feeling overwhelmed, that was feeling like this world was too much. And I would hold him and I say, I see you, I love you, and I care. Or just simply, as I breathe in, I love you, as I breathe out, and it's okay. And doing this 100,000 times till that child within that was once in fear feels so loved, so overwhelmed by love, not overwhelmed by fear, but overwhelmed by the consistency of my love coming from this heart and from the love of God. So inviting God to love me while I'm doing this. So as you flood yourself and your body with love, you feel safe. And when you feel safe, you start to feel strong. When you outlive things, you realize, what the Buddha said, everything's impermanent. Everything's impermanent. And when you go through a couple different crises and you realize, or crises, however you say that, and you realize, oh, my consciousness outlived this pain, you start to just develop a natural strength and trust in the power, the resiliency of your being, the depth of your being. And you start to lose faith in the outward chaos and confusion. Like the next, say, 10 days or whatever, 15 days, 20 days, the next year, let's just be blunt here, probably going to be messy and difficult, at least probably till June with this whole coronavirus, this nasty political thing going on. It's probably going to be messy. But are we going to outlive it? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to have more faith in the strength that outlives than having faith in the fear that's coming at us or the feelings that are coming at us. So, with our ego, the natural inclination is to have faith in the voices of the ego, to have faith in what the ego is telling us, to put it differently. So, the ego's saying basically, this is too much. Common voice of the ego. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. But a great question is who is it that's here that notices the feeling of overwhelm? Isn't that one free? Like, who is it that's here right now that notices the feeling of overwhelm? Oh, there's something here beyond overwhelm. Who is it that's here that's noticing the bright breakdown of my own psyche? Oh, there's someone here, some presence that's here, that's noticing that this psyche and this ego is just falling apart. What's that thing? Can we get in touch with the very presence that's noticing it all, that's witnessing it all, that's experiencing it all, that outlives it all? Can we get in touch with that? So, anyways, Constance, I hope that was helpful for you. Yeah, yeah. What one of the things we can do if we ever feel really overwhelmed, just to start pulling awareness backwards, just like back toward the back of the skull, back, behind the heart toward the spine, back, away from the navel toward the spine. The more you pull awareness to the back, the more you see the big picture. The more awareness is up front, especially in like the prefrontal cortex or up on the surface of the heart, you naturally will feel more overwhelmed. But the more you pull it back, you'll notice there's a quiet strength and power that's here that outlives everything. So, anyways, it's a good thing to play with.
Yeah. Hey there.
There you are. Hi, Richard.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. And Facebook friends as well. Um, first of all, my hair's gotten long enough that I can pull it back. What about it? First time ever. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It
That's
is. It is a big deal.
That's why I shared it. Okay. That's it. So Craig, my question today. So my whole life blew up last week. It was incredible. And I was unhinged in a way that I haven't been for a long time, for a very long time. I used to live there in my late teens and early 20s, especially with the CPTSD, complex PTSD. That's just my whole life. But that isn't my whole life now. And I lost my grounding in spirit
Yeah.
and made some decisions from ego that caused some people some harm, made a mess. And I'm tending to all of that. My question is really around these moments where things blow up. And I'm sure as I, awaken further, integrate further, I'll keep my ground and, more and more. And yet I anticipate shit like this is going to go down sometime
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean? And so
Sure.
you get my question. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and so this is a common thing on the path. There's this old myth that the further you walk, uh, the less drama you experience, and there is a truth to that. But this idea that we get to a place one day where we never have an egoic reaction, I think is a very dangerous belief system to prescribe to. Uh, we live in a world where we're human and divine, and it's just confusing. We have hearts, we fall in love, we have family, we love them, we're attached to them in a healthy way, not bad attachment, but good attachment. Sometimes our car gets wrecked or stolen, or, I've had people steal tens of thousands of dollars from me and did it like keep me up at night. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh my God, like what what happened here? And so um of course we're going to have egoic reactions. Of course we're going to fall again and again and again. I think it's healthy to fall. People who don't fall, I encourage you to be very weary of them. Like people who say they don't fall. I can say this: I fall multiple times a day, just saying the wrong thing, making a fool out of myself, doing the wrong thing. I mean, I sat with my partner last night, and she talked to me for like 40 minutes, telling me all the terrible things I've ever done to her, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry this, I'm sorry that. I apologize, and I'll work on this, and I'll improve this and that. And it's human, and it's healthy to fall. And so, falling is going to be inevitable. The question is after we've fallen and say we've made a mess, can we apologize? Can we work to make it right? Can we grow? Can we look at our wound? Can we look at our shadow? And even from a non-dual perspective, if we step back and look at just what this situation is, basically all of us are living saints. Like we are angels, literally, all of us. Just these divine light beings. And we were shoved down into a flesh body, a body that had all kinds of wiring in it that gets us in trouble. We have an animal wiring and nervous system. So it's just a setup. So we're angels, and then we're shoved down into a flesh body. And it's just like one way of saying, the human experience. And so for me, like I was born into a body that's a body of an alcoholic, and I don't drink. Like how crazy is that of an experience for me? To spend, I don't really crave alcohol anymore, but I for a good 20 plus years of my life, anytime I felt stressed, I just craved a drink. And I was never really a big drinker. And just to imagine that you're given a body that has an ego, that has a program called anger, a program called envy, a program called rage, a program called, overwhelm, a program called, lust and desire, and uh, a program, there's programs within us that make lying and cheating and manipulating very, very easy. You put a human being under just a little bit of stress, and boy, will they lie and cheat and manipulate just to get out of that stress. I mean, I look at my own self, and like if I don't have my blood sugar right, I can start to have thoughts of like a lunatic. It's just like, my God, like what is going on in this program? What's going on in this body to have such bizarre thoughts? And then, all I need is a little bit of kombucha and everything's cool. It's like, it's silly. It's silly, the setup that we're in. And, you know, I think a big part of being free for me is having no anxiety about being human, no anxiety about growth, no anxiety about growth. So what that means is, if the character Craig, the body, falls on its face, makes a mistake, makes a fool out of itself, like I don't at all blame myself or think, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. It's more of a sense of course, he did this, this character Craig. Of course I did that. Of course. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA, it's in my wiring. Of course. Of course. Of course. Like there's a million and one causes and conditions that try to get you to do certain behavior. Of course I did that. Of course. And when you meet yourself with utter forgiveness, just absolute forgiveness, you forgive yourself for being human. You forgive God for making you human, putting you in a human body. You forgive other human beings for being human. There's no judgment about it. Like the growth isn't hard. It's not like going against sandpaper. It's just like, oh yeah, okay. The program within me, I just got confused. Okay, so let's work to correct it so there's less pain for me and for you. Less pain for me and for you, for all of us. And even that, when you really surrender into that, it can be a radically non-dual experience of just seeing, of course, evolution will continue in this human form. Of course it will. But this idea that Buddha nature is perfect and never has to evolve again, that is a dangerous religious perspective. It's a dangerous mythological perspective. So Buddha nature is perfect, but Buddha nature, as it manifests through the human, is evolutionary. It can always be improved upon. It can always be improved upon. It can always be improved upon. And the more you just get comfortable with that, it takes the pressure out of the ego. It takes the pressure out of the critic and the judge and the superego and that self-consciousness that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, Richard. It just takes all the steam out of it. It takes the guilt shame dance out of it, because all that stuff, all those things, they just slow growth down. Whereas if you just like fall on your face and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the mud. Look how much mud is on me. And look, I took the mud and I smeared it on someone else's face. Hey, let me help you get that mud off your face. Like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I fell in the mud and just spit it all over your face or whatever. It splashed on you. I am sorry. I'm sorry. I got really confused. I got confused. And the more you cannot, fight that you have to uphold yourself. Like a lot of people, eh, it's like they're terrified of being seen for being human. So they have to uphold this faulty self-image. And, like some of my colleagues, I don't mean to pick on them, but they wear all white and they're doing this dance with wearing all white, and it's like, you know, it's just a mask. It's just a mask. All that whiteness, it's just a mask. You're dirty under it. You're dirty, and it's okay to be dirty. It's okay to be dirty. Like we're growing literally out of the dirt. And in a sense, I had heard a priest say this once, and it was at a children's mass. It was like this terrible um, sermon that was like really good but terrible at the same time. He looked at all the kids and he said, "All of you are just dirt." And it was just like this shock, like, whoa, just dirt. And what he was meaning was like our bodies are made of dirt, literally. Human is like similar to like humus, like whatever, like earth. It's we're made of dirt, and in the dirt is animal nature. And animal nature is not even bad. It's just one evolutionary step. It's not even animal nature is not bad. It's all just steps. Animal nature is growing into human nature. Human nature is working real hard to be politically correct and all this kind of jazz and to have the right ideas and agendas and this. And then that needs to be surrendered into divine nature. And God, for some reason, said, I want to create an evolutionary world. And I want you all to take part in this. And if we want the evolution to go smoother, let's just get that mask and that self-righteousness, that guarded sense of self. Let's get that out of the way because that just slows the whole thing down. And admit, I am divine. I am holy. I am really good. And I'm driving a car that doesn't work. And sometimes I run into stuff. The car being the body. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it does really stupid things. Sometimes it gets really frustrated. Uh, and makes foolish mistakes. But I had this Jeep once. It's actually like my father's car, his Jeep, and it did this silly thing. It had a computer in it that was faulty, and so when you drive down the road, the RPMs would go. Normal RPMs would stay between like 1,500 and 3,000. It's like healthy range for a car to just be driving it smoothly. All of a sudden it would jump to 5 or 6,000. It would just speed up really fast. And it was terrifying to drive because the computer would just take over while I was driving. And all of a sudden it would start accelerating. Now, fortunately, it was a stick, so I could put the clutch in and the RPMs would race. And I could do some trick by revving it up to calm it down. But the point being here is it's real similar, being a human being is we're divine and we're like, I'm driving the car. But sometimes the car starts driving itself. Sometimes the RPMs go through the roof and, we're involved in road rage or whatever. And then a couple minutes later, we're like, what just happened? Like the car started driving itself. And the more you forgive the car, and the more you forgive the body, and take a look at it and meet it with love, look under the hood, look at the emotions, look at what's going on here, look at the thoughts, say, where did I get so confused? That brings it closer into alignment. The more we judge it and say it's wrong and it's bad, then we're ignoring it, and then it's going to come out in a worse way. And so, the last thing I'll say about this is sometimes, especially after we've had, big awakening experiences, Sometimes God will literally, like use a little magic wand and activate an old program within us. And, in theory, if we could just sit there in meditation quietly and watch it come forward and breathe into it and soften and meet it with love, then that program can, kind of disperse or heal or transform. But more often than not, we don't see it. That program's hanging out in the shadow, and so God works the wand. It doesn't really come out clear enough for us to see it. And so it has to come out in a big way in our life with lots of characters and people telling us we're wrong and we're an idiot and we're a fool. And then we're like, oh boy, okay. Thank you, everyone, for showing me. I have a big shadow and a wound here and a confusion here. And I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this. And the beautiful thing is, when you see this as a part of your path and not as a mistake, boy, does it guard you from becoming like a cult like Guru G who's wearing all white all the time. It's hard to really put on all that white when you realize I just publicly made the biggest fool of myself in front of a bunch of friends and family. I can't really pull off all that white, stuff, and so I can't pull off the costume. And so it's good, it's healthy, it's healing. Um, and of course it's humbling. And so I think it's beautiful when this happens, and it's a real protector of your own inner experience. It helps you so you don't get hooked into, hey everyone, I'm the Messiah. When you fall on your face, a couple different times, especially publicly, it can really be a big part of your path. Christ spoke about this, or he just showed it in his behavior, just of being publicly humiliated. And boy, have I been humiliated a number of times. And boy, did it hurt at the time. But afterwards, when I look back at it, I realize, oh, that was actually quite incredible. One of the great ways to get in touch with this strength that I was talking to Constance about was to outlive public humiliation. And like when you outlive public humiliation and you know that you are still good, that you are still holy, you are still divine, despite being a total fool last week or whatever, 2 weeks ago or a month ago or a year ago, there's a power in that. There's a great power in that. Because you start to develop a faith in what you truly are, and also simultaneously an acknowledgement of your human self and the limitations of that. So, anyways, a beautiful question. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Richard. Thanks for sharing. It really is a funny thing. Uh, funny thing being human. It really is. I laugh all the time. It's such a paradox, and I'll even say this, astrologically, I bet most people had a really difficult week last week or 2 weeks ago, or it's kind of like when I got some real terrible news on the day of, like those riots and the Capitol Hill thing. I was actually trying to watch it on the news, and someone was coming and telling me this even worse news within my family system, and I just stood back a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay, this is something going on astrologically, of just sometimes just a lot of stuff comes up to the surface, and it's really impersonal. It's really impersonal. In a way, it's humorous. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? What just happened in my life? What just happened in our country? What happened? And I've gotten so many emails this week from folks, and it's just sometimes it's a little bonkers, being human. So anyways, beautiful question. Okay, I'm just checking out the Facebook feed here real quick. Hi Craig, for your online sessions, can we use Zoom instead of Skype? Yes. Just give me a little note there in when you're signing up for it. It doesn't have to be on Skype. I do Zoom all day long. Um, okay. Here's one from Andrew. Are people actually waking up more or just discussing it openly now more than ever? How do we know that it's increased? Um, yeah, that's a good question, Andrew. So one of the people I'd look to is my friend Rick Archer, who's interviewed 500 or so, mostly Western spiritual teachers, and uh, he's 70 something years old, maybe 71, and yeah, he's said a similar thing that I've said. Like when he first started on the path, he didn't really notice that many people waking up or claiming to be awake. And so he started his little show because he wanted to highlight just ordinary people waking up. And more it just seems as if more and more people are waking up and knowing it, realizing it, experiencing it. Um, Again, when I first started the path, very few people talked about it, acknowledged it, shared such experiences. And people who've been on the path a long time have been saying this. It just seems like there's more and more people waking up. I mean, of course, now there's more spiritual teachers than have ever been on the planet. There's probably more spiritual seekers than have ever been on the planet. There's more people than ever. Um, like when I was a kid, it was hard to find a yoga class. Now it's hard to find a city that doesn't have a yoga center in it. Just the power of the internet, the power any of us can go online right now, like we're doing, and experience great spiritual teachings, just like that. When I was a kid, if you wanted to see a great master, unless you were fortunate like me and worked for your teacher, most people had to go to India. They had to make a pilgrimage to India or Tibet or something. Um, okay, let me see a bunch of questions here. Let me see if I can keep moving along here. Here's one. I believe this is from Cynthia. Hi, Craig. I'm a 75-year-old pensioner who's been suffering and unable to work for 20 years. I've had one session with you, which you told me you were very sure that I had a kundalini awakening, though I did not experience any states of bliss, etc. And so I'll say this. So not all kundalini automatically means you're going to experience bliss right away. For a lot of people with kundalini awakening, they experience difficulty, pain, depression, body movements, body jerking, all kinds of bizarre thoughts and energies and this type of thing. She goes on to write, basically, I'm having trouble meeting with you, can't always afford it. What can I do? I seem to have deep fears that have been holding me back for years. One of the things you can do is real practical. Is I have a new Kundalini group starting. It's very affordable. You can come to that. As far as support wise, but in regards to your question, the big thing that Kundalini needs, if you have a powerful experience of energy going through your body, and your body's struggling with bizarre symptoms in relationship to it, you need to get your body in an optimum healing state. And the first thing that means is you need to help your body to relax, and you have to learn how to self-soothe when anxiety comes, when fear comes, when depression comes, when the feeling of overwhelm comes. It's very hard to heal if the body is having a fight or flight response. This is just a basic truth. This goes for anything, whether you have cancer or kundalini awakening. It's very hard to heal if the body is in a state of panic. So the most helpful thing you can do, Cynthia, is to do anything and everything to help the body relax. And so that may mean a bubble bath. It may mean a bubble bath. It may mean going on long walks in nature. It may mean not going on any walks, but just going out in the yard and laying down in the grass and letting yourself be held by the earth. It may mean going on YouTube and doing 1,000,000 hours of free yoga on YouTube, or breath work, or listening to guided meditations, or holotropic breathing, again on YouTube, or just sitting and laying in your bed, holding your heart, breathing in, I love you, and breathing out, it's okay. So I did that for, let's imagine 10,000 hours. I just laid and held my heart, held my belly, and breathed, I love you, and it's okay, while the fear, panic, and the anxiety released from my being. And so all this stuff is free. All this stuff is free. And calling upon God, saying, God, will you come into me? Will you help me? Will you give me the strength to heal? Will you give me the strength to heal? Never losing faith. So faith is free. Fear is difficult. Having faith and fear is really painful and difficult. But having faith in faith, like having faith in God, having faith in faith, having faith in your own healing, these things are free. The ego gravitates to having faith in fear. But this will never end. I can't do it. I'm a victim of my own experience. It's the voice of the ego. We have to lose faith in the voice of the ego. And in a real sense, the spiritual path is free. If you want one-on-one support, oftentimes that's going to cost you a little bit of money. But look into some groups. I have a group. Bonnie Greenwell has a group also that's starting up soon. I did make the mistake of me and her were doing our group at the same time, but I recommend her work, so her work is good. Bonnie's got some great books on kundalini. Again, it's Bonnie Greenwell. Reading up on it, but these types of things. And so look into this, Cynthia. But the big thing is to have faith that you will heal. Okay. So thanks, Cynthia, for being here. Here's a question that's related. Craig, can you speak about what a victim is and how to heal that mentality? So it's very much what I said with Cynthia just a moment ago, is having faith that you will heal. So in a sense, to be a victim is to have faith in what your ego is telling you. I'll never heal. I'll never get over this. This is happening to me. I'm being punished. I'll never get better. So in a sense, to be a victim, you have to have faith in the voice of your ego, the voice of despair. To heal or outlive the victim, outgrow the victim, you have to have faith in your true nature. I hope that makes sense. A lot of people really cringe when I say the word victim. I don't mean victim in a judgmental way. So please do not think I'm calling you a victim or you're bad if you feel like a victim. I felt like a victim for about half my life. But I realized I had to have faith in something greater than the voice of fear in my consciousness in order to begin to heal. It's hard to heal if you don't have faith that you can heal. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Moving along here, folks. Hi, Craig. This email was really long and I made it pretty short. Hi, Craig. I have a partner that I've been with for 3 years and we are growing in presence. But sadly, my partner is in the UK and I live in the US. We've been unable to see each other for a long time. Now I've met someone new and I feel an intense connection with. Sadly, though, I feel as if I've lost connection to my awareness and wisdom. Did I do something wrong? So this is a classic experience that we have on the path. Is it's easy to maintain connection to your presence and awareness if you are undivided. As soon as we become divided inside, we will very quickly lose connection with awareness. Very quickly. So when you're relaxed and peaceful, at ease, everything's going well in your life, it's easy to be open and awake and aware, if you've practiced, for some time. But then if something comes and slaps you in the face or confuses you, what happens is we tend to re-identify with the mind. And the thought in the mind is, I need to think, and figure this out. Figure it out. Or if the heart's divided, like if anyone ever has an affair, a lot of people think that to have an affair would be this really fun thing. But to have an affair, it's a hellish thing because you're so divided inside. You love one person and then you love the other, or you want to sleep with the other, and you feel like garbage. You just because you're going back and forth. And it takes your consciousness and it splits it in half. And then all your energy, your mental, emotional, psychic energy goes into the split, into the fight. And so that's why we lose awareness. You didn't do something wrong. You just gave too much attention to your mind. And in this case, if it has to do with love or attraction, you gave too much attention to your emotional mind. You didn't stay with awareness. If you stay with awareness, it's really simple. You just say, oh, my heart, my human emotional heart is confused. It's confused. That's all there is that's happening here. There's no great problem or anything. If you just step back and look, I love one person and then I have an intense connection with another. My human self doesn't know what to do with that. If you give your human self all your bandwidth, like all your time and attention, awareness will seemingly fade. But I will say this, there is something here right now who can witness it, who has witnessed it enough to be able to write this question. And so there is something here that is still awake and aware. The funny thing is awareness is always with us. It's just a matter of have we stepped into awareness, and are we identified with this clarity of mind, this vast spaciousness, this witnessing perspective, or have we stepped fully into the character? Normally, with the experience of love, we've stepped fully into the character, and that's why things get messy in the realm of love. Okay. Hi, Craig. Can you share a bit about the opportunity for deep spiritual growth when life brings us to our knees? Through relaxing my resistance to change, I feel a different way to engage with life being birthed, but there's a fear to let go into it as it's disorienting right now. Well, Mary, you said the truth right there. So anytime there's something new, like a new level of consciousness, a new awakened consciousness of any sort that's coming into us, in order for you to walk into it, you have to give yourself permission to be disoriented. Like I was speaking with Richard about, Richard basically said, I made a mistake and it caused a great pain in the world. And the normal human tendency is to align with our ego and to guard, defend, and put on a mask and this and that. But I encourage us to do something different, to be disoriented. So to take the mask off, to be disoriented, to look at what's actually happening, and to ask our heart, is there another way to respond to this? Is there another way? And to let the silent truth lead you. And of course, there's going to be fear there. Fear is going to say, oh, go with the way we've always done. But if you do the thing you've always done, you're going to get the same kind of result. In order to grow, on the spiritual path, you have to be willing to be disoriented and to choose, again, the third way, not the this way or that way. Should I fight or should I run? No, what if I try the third way? What's the third way? Oh, I'm going to open to God's intelligence. Or then the mind says, no, we should fight because we know how to fight. No, you should run. Run so you don't get hurt. But again, if you follow those voices, you'll just be in trouble. You'll just be in the same trouble you've always been in. Can you choose the third way? So often when I come to something that doesn't make sense, I call upon God and I say, God, you show me the way. Show me the third way here. Show it to me. And we have to be willing to sit, to be disoriented, and see what comes. See what comes. The disorientation, it's good. Disoriented just means, oh, we're stepping into new territory. We're stepping into new territory. That's all we're doing. We're just stepping into new territory. And the mind always thinks new territory is dangerous. But a great question is it dangerous to try something different? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay, beautiful question, Mary. Hi, Craig. A spiritual teacher I really respected posted this whole thing about war coming and mass awakening today. Turns out to be a conspiracy person. What the heck? Not really a question. Just what are your thoughts? So, Colleen, I spoke a bunch about this in the beginning. So one of the things that happens with spiritual teachers is as you allow your consciousness to expand and awaken and open to all kinds of new realms and see great things. Like I've opened to realms where there is literally 10,000 angels to my right and to my left. Like my teacher David took me to this realm once. And I thought, what is this consciousness? And the response was, this is you, Craig. This is your nature. 10,000 angels to my right and to my left. Now, if I go with that in an egoic Messiah kind of way, I could have great fun with that. I could say I'm the Messiah, I'm Guruji, I'm bringing about the new age. If I get my imagination in there, there's an army of angels behind me. We all need to commit suicide tonight and go into this angelic realm. I mean, people get crazy. People get crazy. This is the problem with being awake, is if you're awake, especially outside of a lineage, just on your own, and you don't have anyone questioning you, if you don't have students questioning you, sometimes the world of vision, which I'm going to call truth, and the world of imagination get mixed. The ego, you can imagine, and then it co-ops a vision, and so it mixes imagination with vision, and then we have David Koresh, then we have Jim Jones, or then we have whoever teacher friend was about a mass awakening, a war coming. It's really common on the path for teachers to get carried away if they're not grounded, if they're not humbled. And this is one of the beautiful things that, like we were speaking about before, when you're humbled by your own human self, when you're open to the experience of your human self, when you've been publicly humiliated, You're less likely to go out into the streets and say, hey, everyone, I'm the Messiah. I have the vision. And it kind of protects you from that kind of nonsense. From that kind of nonsense. But it's a, one of the things that happens to me is I may just be sitting on my couch and God will drop these grand worlds into me. Just heavenly, holy realms of absolute divinity. And I open to them, I experience them, I allow them to merge into my consciousness and become an aspect of my own self. But when I get up, I also know that there's a fool here who's walking around in an animal body that was probably going to say something stupid this day. And so, I don't get carried away. I merge into the absolute, but at the same time, there's enough humility here that knows that, that this machine is a work in progress. So, anyways, so much love to each and every one of you. I think I did my part. I think I answered all the questions to the best of my ability. If I missed your question, send it again for next week. Please join us Wednesday night if you're called. Stay tuned for details for upcoming retreat, beginning of March, tentatively planned. And I'll just say one last thing. Just given the nature of whatever's happening here on planet Earth astrologically, I'm going to invite everyone in the Sangha, everyone in the world, to take a deep breath, unplug from the whole political machine and all the internet conspiracy madness. Just unplug from all of it. Just do your best to be a calm, peaceful Buddha while we get through these times of darkness. Just do your best to shine your light while we outlive this pandemic and this political nonsense and everything else that's happening, this astrological conjunction or whatever it is. Just be your best to keep your feet on planet Earth and respond with love to the best of your ability. So, God, I'm going to invite you to help us all with that while we go through these dark times. Give us the strength, the support, the love to heal, to grow, and to be conduits of your grace. So, good to see you all. Good night, everyone. Bye for now.